All right, and we are live.
Awesome. What's up, guys? Shawn Bowen, Full Circle Investment Group, and wholesalingoutofthebox.com. Coming to you guys for another lunchtime live today. And we're going to continue on talking about how to make offers on properties. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to make offers on multifamily deals and how we make offers on multifamily deals. So if you guys are joining us, please click the link above. Always join us to leave comments in the live or the replays. And then let us know if you have questions while you're here. And then, of course, always interested in feedback, right? Love to hear. This is a realm where I'm hoping to have a lot of people talk about it. And then hopefully having a lot of feedback to what we're talking about today. But multifamily, how you're making offers on properties versus coming back against or countering to what the seller is asking for. So difference in single family versus multifamily is usually you're buying based on performance or what lack of performance, right? So what's it performing at today versus what is it doing in the future? You're not buying something on value unless it's performing, which would be typically people want to start in the double digits, which usually start right around 10%. So cap rate is the word a lot of people use inside of that world of multifamily. So when you say a 10% cap rate, it's really what the performance of the building is doing today and the income that you're netting versus what you're grossing, right? So what that sounds like would be seller is asking $300,000 and 10% of $300,000 is 30 grand. So how do you reverse engineer to get to that number? So typically when we're talking to sellers and they're dealing with multifamily, we want to see performance on leases, right? And in this case, let's just say a 4-unit building. And bear with me, guys. I'm going to write some notes. I'm tracking with you at the same time. So 4 units. And let's just say that those units are $1,000 a month gross. So that's $4 grand on a monthly. And then we're going to take $4,000 times 12 months. And we're going to say that it's grossing $48,000. Make sure I did my math right. So 4 times 12. Yep. 48 grand. So that is your gross operating income or GOI. What we really want to know is what the net operating income is so that when you do this reverse number, you're getting into what the performance is of the purchase price of the building versus what you're actually taking home. And that's how you equate close to a cap rate. Now, there's a bunch of different things that people say can vary cap rates, but if you're doing just simple math and simple numbers, you're trying to get to a very baseline number, right? So that's what this is. So in this case, $48,000, if it was the gross, and you needed to know what the net is without getting a full-blown expense report or a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement, I would say just use 50% as cutting down the middle. Okay. So at $48,000, we'll divide that by 2, and we'll say that after everything's paid out, we're going to net $24,000. So 24K is NOI, which is net operating income. So now this person wants you to buy this building at $300,000. So then what you would do is you would take the $24,000, divide it by the purchase price, and let's just say 24,000 divided by 300,000. You're roughly performing at an 8 cap or an 8% return. Okay. Now there's a lot of variables inside of this, guys, and within this 30-minute convo, we're not going to deep dive all of it, but this should give you a good starting point of the questions to ask as the wholesaling world, and you come across a multifamily. This should be how to get these numbers to start formulating, right? So that is not a great return to start off with, just your baseline numbers, right? We haven't talked about expenses to fix up the building. We don't know anything else but just here's the cost, here's what's income, or here's the buy, here's what the return is based on what it's coming in net. Okay. So real simple is whatever the gross operating income is, just take that, divide it in half, and then use that number based on the purchase price in order to back into your offer number. This would be the same way if you're wholesaling single family, you're using the same type of formula where you're taking off repairs, you're taking off your wholesale fee in order to get under contract at the right number to go to the buyers that are either buying at a certain rate or a certain number that fit this criteria. Okay. So a little bit different, right? But the main questions you're asking for is obviously what's the sales price? What's the performance on each unit, right? And then then you get into some deep stuff, which is, can I see copies of leases? And it's not too common when you're dealing with less than 10 units that you really have the books that are being kept straight. Most of the time they're not. You're getting it on like a Word doc or a simple Excel that maybe they just spit out within the next day or two, which is more than likely why they're probably selling it, right? It's mismanaged. There was no money put back into the property to keep up its value. So definitely maintenance is not up to speed, right? So guys, as we're doing this, come in and ask questions. Hopefully there's some people that are watching this and can give some feedback. This is very base level stuff, baseline stuff to start with. If you're a wholesaler trying to talk about anything doing with multifamily, just to give some little bit of knowledge to it, there is a lot more that goes into this with guys that are, way deeper involved in it. This is just for those guys that are newer, that are trying to have a number of something to talk to the seller about when you actually happen to come across a multifamily deal from your marketing. It's just something to give you that you can talk to about, right? And have an idea of whether it's worth your time or not to even move forward. If somebody came to you and said they want to sell this building at $300,000 and it grosses, what'd we say, 48 grand, and you just split that down the middle and you do the math of $24,000 net and realize you can divide that number and come up with a cap rate, is it worth you digging any deeper? Usually when you do this, you end up in a 1-2% reduction because maybe some of the line items didn't add up right, or they had missed some line items which take more money off, right? This is just to help you have a baseline to start with. And again, there's guys that are way better than me at this, and deal with this a lot more than I do. But I do understand how to get to the basic number, and I'm hoping that's what this will help you with, is just to formulate a number when you're talking to a guy or a lady or a company that has a multifamily deal they want to try to sell. So, quick review off of that, and some of the acronyms we talked about was, what is a cap rate? And that's the performance of the building based on the purchase price and the net operating income. A P&L, which is a profit and loss statement, that allows you to see what the costs are to the building, depending on if it has trash, water, electric. Does it have any income producing assets on site, a washer, dryer machine, anything like this, right? Is there any extra income coming in? Are there garages or anything that they're renting out to bring more income in? That's another piece. And then you want to know how to reverse engineer to that number and say what today's value is based on today's performance in order to give you a rough baseline. Again, just enough to have enough information to ask instead of not having anything. If this becomes something that you're digging into more and you're starting to play with more and understanding more about multifamily, obviously get with somebody that does that and learn the deeper and the more in-depth of how you do this. That's the baseline for us. And when our guys in acquisitions come across this stuff, they have an idea to talk to it and whether or not it's even worth the time or not. Okay. So guys, let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know where you're seeing this live at. Thank you so much for everybody that's joining us today. Today, we've been speaking on how to make an offer on multifamily based on questions of performance, leases, fix up on the building, all this kind of stuff is what multifamily is, and how you're going to come to that number. This is just to give you a little bit of information to start with for those guys that are either brand new or even some experienced people. I would love more feedback here. If you're an experienced person in the multifamily world, love to learn more from you. But these are the bases that I've learned on and that we teach and show people inside of what we've learned to help you. So landfill in Danville, Virginia. Awesome. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it. So yeah, guys, this is it's a little bit, we try to do these where it's not so deep dive, but when you start talking about multifamily, there's a lot of moving pieces. But if you're looking at it from just the high down to the very basics, it's what's the seller asking for based on what can they show you that the income is producing, and then what repairs need to be done to it, and then making your offer based on what your fee is inside of a wholesale. So they're all multifamilies being wholesaled, guys. It's just paper. You're shifting paper around. It's just on a bigger number with a few more zeros behind it. And yes, it's very, very good business. There's guys that do it way better than I do, but you get to hear and learn from their numbers. So very, very interesting. But that's about it, guys. It's not too deep dive today. Pretty quick on the multifamily stuff, just because it's not our forte, but we do have enough information to give you just a little bit to help you, and then deep dive into somebody or with somebody that has a little bit more knowledge into it. But those are the guidelines, right? You're marketing to people that maybe show up for delinquent taxes or code enforcement issues on a building that they're just not performing well on or keeping up to date. And then how to even come to a formula, right? When people say they're comping buildings, comping a building could be two buildings side by side, identical, 4 units, same 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 700 square foot a unit. And this could be performing really well because there was maintenance done to it and there's upkeep been done to it, and it's got great income, maybe a little bit higher than the other building that is run down and the upkeep on maintenance has not been done. It's like just it could be side by side assets, and they could be performing completely different, right? So over here on a question, it seems like cap rate seems like they're driven down extremely low right now with demand and inventory. Are you seeing buyers at 6 and even lower at 4? No, I see guys that are that low that it's too low. It's not going to be able to survive on either performance or future based on repairs going into the property. And let's say the building doesn't get 100% leased. What are you doing just to cover the note, right? Is that 1 unit do it, 2 units do it? And if it doesn't, then you're going to be in a bad situation later on down the line when something breaks. Let's say an HVAC goes out, you got to repair that. You might be looking at $6,000, $7,000 in order to do that. Do you have the income put to the side to allow that to happen? I don't think at 4 and 6. Well, let's be very careful with that. Now that I'm saying it out loud again, different class of building, right? A, B, and C class building all the way down to D. If you guys are learning classes of what the class of a building is, A is a newer building, probably not going to have a lot of maintenance, probably pretty good, decent sized newer building. You could probably get lower on a cap, right? The older the building, the worse location the building, the higher the return needs to be. That is what we've learned and what I know. So I don't really think it depends on the asset class. Again, I don't think you're talking safe at 4 and 6. I think it needs to be 10 and north to be at a good. Most of the stuff that we're seeing and dealing with is like C and D class buildings. I'm not really seeing stuff in the A and B. So no, I don't feel like that's a good cap rate to be at. All size, 4 unit maybe, as you say, but 50 to 100 plus units, I'm not seeing 8 or any more. You? Yeah, I don't actually get near that. Again, I'm not in that space. I'm speaking to the marketing that we do to find or come across multifamily from a single family marketing campaign that actually just picks something up. So I'm speaking to that. Yeah, I don't know. Like, sure, if you're higher on the 1,500 units, maybe that is better. I don't know. I would more buildings or more units, more income. Sure, that definitely changes the numbers. So I would not be able to speak to, anything north of almost 15 units is the highest I've ever seen or dealt with or played with numbers on. So whoever that person is, I can't see your name, unfortunately, but you'll be able to speak more to that than I do if you're working in that space and you're familiar with it. I don't. So I speak to what I know. I speak to what I see and do. So yeah, I would love to hear more from you about that. The numbers, the breakdowns, more units. I would assume that would probably be a good return if you had more units, higher income. Just depends again on the class of the building. If you want to come on live, please come on live. I would love to talk about this. It sounds like you might have a little bit more intuition than I do and more knowledgeable on it. So if you would come on live, Ashley can give you the link and we can bring you on. And I would love to speak with you live about it because, yeah, I don't know much about anything over 15 more units. Haven't seen it, haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, the link is in the description.
Okay.
If anyone wants to jump on.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, guys, so while either that person comes on or doesn't, speaking to multifamily from a single family marketing campaign source that you just happen to come across, that's the reason we're here today speaking with this, is to talk about what we know, right? Do you even have an idea or a range to just be dangerous enough to know what you're talking about, / is it even worth doing the numbers on? When knowing what the person's asking, right? $300,000. What's each unit performing at? Take that, add it up on a monthly, then take that on an annual 12-month scale, come up with that math. And then I say for simple of ease, most buildings don't operate at a 50% operating expense. They're probably between like 25 and 35. And then until you get that P&L, just do 50% because at worst case, it should be better because your number would be better. So yeah, I think this is the easiest way of doing this and just helping to have a little bit of knowledge when you do come across them versus like, whoa, I have no idea what to do or, what to say with those numbers. And again, it's not our forte. We don't deep dive it. I don't speak to things I don't know about, which is why we're talking about very entry level stuff with this kind of, because I don't deal with anything over that. And this person seems like they probably know more than or have dealt with a lot of stuff like that. So
yeah, just to let you know, I looked on the Facebook group because in here it doesn't, unless you give us permission, we can't see who's saying it. But I went and I to the actual Facebook. That's Luke.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Luke's gonna think he knows more about that in that world than I would, for sure. So that's awesome. Oh, that's.
I guess he doesn't. Yeah, yeah. I kind of thought it was him when he said it was.
Okay,
but I guess he doesn't like you enough to talk to come out.
Right. He might be busy. He might be busy. He's just watching it on his phone and typing. That's okay. So yeah, guys. Again, just this, I wouldn't say surface level, but just base knowledge stuff to know so that as you're coming across these things in your marketing, how to reverse engineer that number, the simple things to ask for, which you'll start to be surprised that most people don't have, right? A lot of these units that are 10 units and less are the mom and pop shop. They're not managed well. They're not tracked well with bookkeeping. That's a lot of stuff that we've seen. And don't be surprised when somebody says like, I don't have that, right? Because it's not uncommon. When you start getting up in the 50 and 100 units, yeah, that for sure is going to be managed by a management company, probably a bigger company that knows what they're doing. That's not for the faint of heart. We're not talking small money either, a few $100,000 / $1 million to deal with something like that. So those people are usually more experienced and way put together, right? So different type of person you're talking to. So hopefully this will help you. Again, just to recap, is the multifamily, talking about cap rates, talking about profit and loss statements, and then, how you're pulling comps to what rental market is in that area based on how many bed, how many bath and square footage to pull rental comps and say, okay, I can maybe raise my rents, or maybe they're not even that high. And then reverse engineer to that and say, here's my offer based on either it's performing or not, and negotiating a good enough price that you can either keep that for yourself and, cash flow it, or wholesale it to somebody that, that's their market. It's what they know. So this is just, like I said, surface level stuff to help you understand a little bit about multifamily, and help you get a little bit of direction so that you're a little bit understanding of it. Just like I said, just not to be dangerous on the multifamily stuff, because that's about how I feel with it. We don't really deal with too much of it. So that's the surface level stuff I've learned to where we can talk to it enough and then take it over to somebody else that knows more about it. So guys, as usual, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us today and be around and listening to the podcast and interacting with us. Luke, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll try to get you on next time. But as always, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can send me a PM. Always check us out at wholesalingoutofthebox.com. We're always there with things that can help you in the business, get started. Anything there, there's plenty of stuff there to help you with. If you're local, come in and check us out. We do our property walkthroughs. Hopefully we can keep those going. We had our first one back the other day. And then our meetings that we do every 2 weeks, downtown Norfolk. We get together and we're in there for 2 hours and talking business. So love to meet you in person. We're going to try to keep the virtual thing going too. And of course, always have these lunchtime lives with you. And check us out on our podcast. We're getting multi ways to connect with you guys, right? So looking to do business with you. I'm always interested in joint venturing, and we are looking to push some money around and do some rehabs as well. So guys, thank you so much for the time. I look forward to the next one, and always check us out, wholesalingoutofthebox.com. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.